We don't march and protest because we like to march and protest. All we want to do is be free.
Shaun King.
From New York, Shaun King. Good morning.
Hey, good morning, everybody. We already know that white nationalism and white supremacy are growing all over the world. But yesterday, in the British Parliament, Dhesi, who was a member of the Labour Party, confronted British Prime Minister Boris Johnson, who's only been Prime Minister for a few weeks and is struggling. Dhesi confronted British Prime Minister Boris Johnson right to his face for his history of racism, right there on the floor of Parliament. I mean, the Prime Minister was right there in the room. I have the clip. It's now on my Instagram, and we'll put it on Black America Web as well. I'd love for you to see it because it's a powerful, inspirational moment where Dhesi calls him out. And it's also something, and I mean this specifically, something that you will never see happen in the United States. Because did you know that the United States Congress currently has rules that actually ban the very thing that Dhesi said yesterday? It's against the rules to call the president or even the words of the president or the actions of the president. It's against the rules of Congress to call those things racist. It's against the rules to call any member of Congress racist or say that they even said or did or supported something racist. You can't do that on the floor of Congress.
Yeah.
And perhaps, you can't do it, not at all. And I'll read the rules to you here in just a second. Perhaps the greatest evidence that white supremacy and white nationalism are on the rise all over the world is the fact that openly racist, openly bigoted men and women are being elected to governments everywhere. And this notion that it's better for a bigot to be open with their bigotry instead of hiding it, it's actually not true. I've talked about that on the show before because here's the thing. Open bigotry, particularly from public leaders, it actually fuels and grows and empowers more bigotry. When someone knows that they can be openly bigoted, hate crimes rise, hateful policies rise. And listen, I'm not saying that closeted, hidden types of bigotry don't have consequences. They do. But what we're facing right now all over the world is uniquely problematic. But yesterday in the British Parliament, Dhesi, who is the first Sikh member of Parliament to wear a turban in Parliament, confronted the newly elected Prime Minister of the UK, Boris Johnson. And Johnson is not only a lifelong bigot, but he represents a conservative party in the United Kingdom that is growing in its open bigotry, just like our Republican Party. And you have to see this clip of Dhesi confronting Prime Minister Boris Johnson right there in Parliament, maybe 10 or 15 feet away from him. And when you watch the clip, I want you to see it because it's the very type of confrontation and clarity that we really need in our Congress. Now, Boris Johnson is bound to be an absolutely horrible prime minister. His brother, who was a member of Parliament, just resigned earlier this morning. Boris Johnson has lost. There have been 4 votes so far in Parliament. He's lost all 4 votes. And some people are saying he literally may be the shortest serving prime minister in the history of the UK. He's loathed across the country. He could never win a general election if he wanted to. But what I want to teach you this morning is something that most of our listeners might not have known. Because what Dhesi did right there on the floor of British Parliament, which I think had a huge impact on the way the nation views Boris Johnson, is against the rules. And those rules in the United States are called the Jefferson Manual, which was originally written by Thomas Jefferson all the way back in 1801. And those rules govern the rules of speech on the floor of the House of Representatives. And those rules get voted on and updated regularly. I want to read a section to you because this section is the specific section that Republicans put in the Jefferson rules in 2016 and 2017 to make sure that Democrats or nobody on the floor of Congress could call the president racist. Now, this is a quote. The quote is, references to racial or other discrimination on the part of the president are not in order. As such, remarks in Congress may not refer to the president as, and it says, number 1, a racist, as number 2, having made racial slurs or racial epithets, number 3, telling a racist lie. You cannot say that the president told a racist lie. Number 4, you cannot call the president a bigot. Number 5, you cannot say the president has made a bigoted or racist statement. I'm reading this from the act. I have the paper manual in my hand. Number 6, you cannot say the president has taken a bigoted action. Number 7, you cannot say the president does not care about black people. Number 8, you can't call him a misogynist. Number 9, you can't say he ran a prejudice campaign. And it goes on and on and on. All of these things are outrageous. Like, I literally didn't know until this year that all of those things are banned on the floor. And if you think about it, though, it's quintessentially American that a set of rules on the fair treatment of people were originally written by a man that owned human beings. And that these rules now dictate that you are not even allowed to call the specific actions of the president or of another member of Congress racist. And it goes to prove the adage that conservatives hate being called racist more than they actually hate racism itself.
Yep.
And how can we confront the thing which we cannot name? How can our members of Congress address the thing that we cannot name? And it's absurd.
Yeah.
And it brings me to an action step that I would all love for us to take today. Today, I'm asking you to begin a campaign with us to just let your congressmen and women know how you feel about the ridiculousness of all the rules in the Jefferson Manual. And here's all I'm asking you to do. When you get time today, simply write them and call them and let them know how you feel. And here's how you can do it. If you go to Google these words, find your representative. Find your representative. Just those 3 words. The first link at the very top of any Google search is going to be a link to a government page. It's going to ask you to put in your zip code. Now, when you do that, and here's why it's important, I want you to contact your congressman, because when you call or email, they will ask you what's your zip code or where do you live, because here's what I have learned in all my years of activism. It helps a little when I call your congressman or when you call my congressman. But when you call the congressman that represents the district that you live in, it has 3 to 4 times the amount of weight because they see you as their constituent. They actually have staff in the office who are paid to take your concerns. So Google the words, find your representative, put in your zip code. It's going to take you directly to the page for your congressperson. And when you get there, it's going to have a link where you can email them and a link where you can get more information. If you can, tweet them as well. Now, I know this may make some of you nervous, but there's nothing more important than just making the phone call. I'm making the phone call to my congressperson, and I'm just going to let them know, like, listen, I heard, I read, I saw the rules in the Jefferson Manual, and can you, particularly if your congressperson is a Democrat, it will really help, can you all go ahead and change these rules? Because here's what I've learned. Democrats have the power, now that they are the majority in Congress. They have the power to change the rules in the Jefferson Manual. And they need to do it, but they're only going to do it if we let them know how much we want to see it done. Let's take care of that. And if you get something done, let us know on the show how it happens. I'll keep everybody updated as well.
Okay.
Take care, everybody.
Okay, let me get this straight. You can't say someone's a racist, but you can call him a liar in the middle of the State of the Union address. Remember that?
Right. And,
that's okay?
There was really no consequence. Yeah, there was no consequence when that congressperson did that to President Obama. But multiple times now, Congress people have, even Nancy Pelosi, who made a statement just about a month and a half ago trying to call the president a racist, was banned from speaking for the rest of the day. And it's like, listen, how can we ever be honest? I could potentially understand the argument for not calling someone a racist, but the rule even states you can't even call an action or a statement that they made racist. Huh. And so at this point, that's ridiculous. And it keeps us from being able to have a moment that they just had in the UK. And we need that type of moment.
Because we got a Boris Johnson in the White House.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
But if you can't confront him on the floor of Congress,
where can you?
Even if not to his face, that cripples you.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't know that.
We can change that rule.
All right. All right, Shaun. Be
Yeah,
safe.
take care, y'all.